Monkey Man is a brand new film that's been in development for quite a while. They actually started to shoot this movie right during the COVID pandemic. They were
Hmm.
prepping for it and filming it right before COVID hit back in 2020. Obviously, that delayed the film quite significantly. Ultimately, they did finish the film by 2021, but considering that it's now 2024, that's 3 years ago that we've been sitting and waiting on this movie because initially it was going to end up on Netflix. Netflix had acquired the movie, I believe, for about $30 million to stream it on the platform. However, Jordan Peele got his hands on it. He saw the movie and he said, wait, this feels like it should go to theaters. Let's not do that. Let's not send it to a streamer. Let's try to get it some theatrical distribution, which they were fortunately able to do and get that distributed through Universal Pictures. And so after this long and winding road to get this movie made, and of course, Dev Patel, who's been acting for quite a long time, now stepping up to the director's chair, really for the first time in his entire career, had to kind of will this movie into existence, make sure that it got across the finish line, especially in a theatrical context, because it was going to be a streaming only movie. But we got a chance to go check this movie out this past weekend. So with all of that out the way, man, I will pass it over to you. What did you think about this new film, Monkey Man?
I'm a Dev Patel fan, man. I really am. I like this dude a lot. I always have, but now seeing him step into the director's chair in this movie, Monkey Man, I really like Dev Patel. And this movie does not shy away from any of its influences. In fact, Dave Patel, I think he's done multiple interviews like influences of this movie. He really loves like Korean action and tons of this movie has a ton of influence. In fact, they literally like name drop John Wick like in the movie, and it's fun, man. And the thing that's so smart about this film is, of course, it's a revenge film. It is high octane, but it contains politicalness to it that a lot of those other movies don't necessarily have, which I think was a really cool spin on things. This is again a movie about this dude where he fights in nightclubs night after night. He wears a gorilla slash monkey mask, and it's it. They whip each other's ass, and he kind of goes home. But he discovers a way to somewhat infiltrate, I guess the organization of the people who led to the death of his mom. And now, how does he get to those people? And again, conduct his revenge. But there's so much to it. Again, I really like his director's eye. He had fun with it. The action is really cool. There's some really cool things that they're doing that I hadn't seen before in action movies. And yeah, man, it just feels like a cool love letter to both those action movies. He talks about Raid in an interview. Of course, we talk about Raid all the time. We love Raid. Again, he names dropped John Wick. There's literally a dog in this movie, but also there is some Bollywood in here. There is some other things, you know what I mean? That stylistically, he has fun with in this film. That's really cool, and something that a lot of other action movies don't always have, that a lot of anime has, that this movie has, is like a training arc. This movie has a training arc that I appreciated, because that doesn't always happen. Sometimes people will just come out the gate and they're just badass. Not necessarily this one. This one like has like moments of like, no, you need to be better. This is how you need to get better. And so I'm really happy that was also a part of the film. But yeah, man, I like Dev Patel. I think Monkey Man, it's going to be a crazy popular. It already is. It's like super popular with people I know. I see people on Letterboxd. It keeps popping up over and over. People are going out to watch this film. And the budget's only like 10 mil. So I can't wait to see what the success of this movie does. But yeah, man, I really enjoy Monkey Man. And I hope to see Dev Patel in the director chair more.
Yeah, I too admire Dev Patel a lot. I like the career that he's carved out for himself. He's still so young, and he takes his time in between projects and he picks them carefully. He doesn't just do anything, but he feels like an
Yeah.
actor that can do almost anything, even at this very young age. And so to find out that he was going to direct a movie, albeit a revenge action thriller, got me super excited because I love that genre. There's just so many things that have come out, especially in the 21st century, that have just kind of changed the course of where action cinema has gone. Obviously, John Wick, the constant reoccurring thing for American action movies. But as you noted, I mean, just all the international influences that we see in films like
Mm-hmm.
Old Boy or The Raid or I Saw the Devil. There's just so many movies
Yeah.
creating these new spins and these new takes and these violent and brutal depictions of what revenge can really look like. And that's all harkening back to to things that were present in the 70s and the 80s, things like Lady Snowblood and Lone Wolf and Cub. Like, a lot of those movies set the path for these things, and they're just kind of taking the ball and running with it for a new generation. And so Dev Patel clearly knows his history and knows the knowledge of this genre and what he wanted to accomplish here. And ultimately, I think for me, with Monkey Man in particular, it was a movie that only ended up being okay. I did
Mhm.
want to love it more. I really, really wanted to love this movie. In fact, I was super excited for it, especially considering Jordan Peele was very much behind the movie and supported it. And I think ultimately it just doesn't work for me in a lot of areas. But what I will say is that I truly admire Dev Patel aiming high and doing something different and more with this genre, because it isn't just a clean cut action movie. It's not just a stylized revenge thriller. He is tackling socio-political things. He's tackling and addressing the caste system in India, which we actually talked a lot
Mhm.
about with Origin from Ava DuVernay a couple of months ago. He's talking about poverty in Mumbai. There's all these things that he's including in this movie that are addressing the socio-political nature of that country. And I think that stuff is like critical and crucial to the type of story that it is. I think ultimately where Monkey Man just doesn't work for me is the fact that the pacing of it just doesn't feel that great. I never felt like the movie gained a ton of momentum and kept it up throughout the entire runtime. It's really slow to start. They take their
Mhm.
time to kind of get the ball rolling. And ultimately, I think that the 2 hour runtime made it feel really sluggish, because that second act really, really started to lose me.
It does.
I was becoming pretty disconnected with the movie at that point, because there's a lot of flashbacks, there's a lot of context given, and there's not a ton of dialogue in the movie. The movie's not heavy on the writing. Like, it's a lot of
Mhm.
visual imagery, and that can work. I mean, Denis Villeneuve just said, like, who cares about dialogue? I don't agree with that at all. I think that he's
Mhm.
completely that I just don't see things that way, but it can be effective if done well. And I just think that this movie, for the time that we had with it and for the pacing of it, not having dialogue, not having really strong writing in between these moments of high octane action, kind of took away from the experience for me. But I will say, when the action comes and it gets going, it's great. It's really, really tremendous stuff. It's a lot of close combat, hand to hand combat. It's not a ton of guns. We know John Wick is like the master of gun fu. They don't really use a ton of guns here. It's like knife fights. Like,
Mhm.
motherfuckers are getting shanked left and right. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
violent. It's brutal. That stuff is fantastic. It's shot well. You feel every single stab, every single punch and hit. I think that for him to be a first time director, that is just kind of extraordinary that it was able to pull it off in this way. And so I think he has the eye for this. He has the talent for this. He certainly has the chops to be a long-time director in Hollywood, especially if he wants to do that more on a full-time basis as opposed to being the lead of movies, which I'd be totally here for. So I think it's a solid start. I just didn't love it the way that I wanted to. It's not a bad film by any means. It's still solid. I
Mhm.
do plan to revisit it in the future. I just wanted a little bit more from it, and I think that it could have used better pacing, a little bit more of a faster pace style, maybe a shorter runtime, and maybe some sharper writing on occasion with some of the characters, because there were a lot of people that were included here that I didn't particularly care for, and I think that we could have used a little bit
Mhm.
more context and background information. But I know a lot of people love this movie. I'm kind of in the minority on this one. That's okay. And I hope more people enjoy it than I did, because it definitely is something that I think is refreshing. I feel like we should get these types of movies like every 2 months. Like, can we just get
I
like a
agree.
new action movie, like a really solid one? Like, Beekeeper was pretty solid from Jason Statham
It
back in
was.
January. Pretty solid movie.
Mhm.
We got Monkey Man. Hopefully we get a couple of more, throughout the year that can just like feed this niche, that I think
Mhm.
has been missing and lacking from movie theaters for a long time
For
now.
10 mil.
Exactly, like,
For shout out to Corey Jefferson.
look,
For 10
look,
mil.
for 10 mil, like, let's make 20 of these for just $10 million. Like, let's just do more of that. Like, there's room for this stuff. And so I do hope we can get more movies like this, especially from an international context. But
Mhm.
folks, those are all of our thoughts on the new film Monkey Man. If you've checked this out, hit us up and let us know what you think.